When you think about what is standing between you and your weight loss and health goals, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Your diet? Your exercise routine? Maybe your motivation? Your schedule? Maybe you think about the conflicting nutrition advice you've been trying to make sense of, or the fitness program you started and abandoned, or the fact that you cannot seem to stay consistent no matter how hard you try. You're not alone. Whatever you think about, I am willing to bet that saying no is definitely not the first thing that comes to mind. And yet, in my experience, both in my own health transformation and in working with the women I coach, it is one of the most critical skills you will ever develop. Not just for losing weight, but for keeping it off for good, for actually building the sustainable, healthy life that you know you are capable of. In today's episode, I unpack the superpower of saying no, and I give you 5 simple tips to help you say no with confidence and love. Now, before we get into it, I want to personally welcome you to my podcast. I'm Vera Brown, weight loss, health and fitness coach for women 40 and above who want to lose weight and transform their health naturally and sustainably. After struggling with my weight and health for decades in the corporate world and as an entrepreneur, I lost more than 100 pounds in my mid-40s and have kept it off. No pills, no injections, no procedures, no extremes, no tracking. In my podcast, I share what's worked for me, including actionable strategies. I discuss fitness, nutrition, sleep, stress, and mindset, all to help you achieve your weight loss and health transformation goals. Join me. Now, let's get into it. One of the things I can tell you as somebody who's been there and done it, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty, is that when it comes to weight loss, lots of things matter. That's the reality. The nutritional knowledge, the workout routine, the sleep habits, the stress management, the mindset, all of it matters. But I would argue that none of it matters if you cannot hold your ground in a social situation when somebody you love puts a plate of homemade apple pie in front of you and looks at you with those eyes. So, today we're going there. We're talking about saying no when you want to say no. Because this is one of those conversations that rarely happens in the health and wellness space, and I think it's long overdue. So let's unpack why saying no to food and people is so tricky for many of us, and I'd argue it's secretly sabotaging our own health journey. And don't forget to stick around to the end when I share my 5 top tips on how to actually say no with kindness to the people that you love. Let's get into it. Here is something I want you to sit with for a moment. Saying no to things is actually the easy part. What do I mean by that? Well, saying no to buying the potato chips at the supermarket, saying no to the extra helping of ice cream when nobody's watching, saying no to the late night snack when you are alone in the kitchen. That is all hard, yes, but it's manageable. There is no emotional fallout. Nobody's feelings are at stake. It is just you and the food. That is all. And because of that, it's actually the easier thing to say no to. But in contrast, saying no to people, that is a whole different ballgame. And that is because we are all social creatures, every single one of us. We are wired to connect, to belong, to build relationships and community. And so much of that connection in every culture, in every family, in every friendship group happens around food and drink. It always has, it probably always will, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I want you to take a moment and think about every significant moment in your life. The celebrations, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the bereavements, the Sunday dinners, the holiday gatherings, the work outings, food is almost always at the center of it. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. After all, food is love, food is tradition, food is memory, food is connection. The smell of your grandparents' cooking, the birthday cake your mom or dad made every year, the first meal a new partner cooked for you. These things are deeply, deeply tied to who we are and how we connect with the people we love. So, when you're at a family dinner and somebody has spent hours making the most incredible homemade meal, and they offer you seconds, and you say, no thank you, I'm good, you are not just saying no to the food. It can feel like you are saying no to them, to the person who offered the food, to their love, that you're saying no to the effort they put in, to the tradition that you've shared for years. And that awkward feeling when you try to say no is not weakness. It is not a lack of willpower. Instead, what it is, it's you being a normal, caring human being who values the people in your life. And I want to acknowledge something else too. For many of us, particularly women of our generation, there's a deep conditioning around food and hospitality. We were raised to believe that accepting food was a form of respect, that clearing your plate was good manners, and that refusing seconds could genuinely cause offense. That is not something you just switch off overnight. It's woven into who you are, and recognizing that is actually the first and most important step. Now, let's go a bit deeper. Diet culture has in some ways made saying no easier, but I would argue that that is actually the problem. Because here's something I genuinely believe, something that does not get talked about nearly enough in the weight loss and health world. This right here, right now, saying no to people is one of the main reasons why so many of us find it easier to lose weight on short-term restrictive programs or diets. Why? Well, because when you're on a diet, you have a reason to say no. Your reason is a neat package, socially acceptable, and it feels legit. You can verbalize it. You can explain it without too much rationalizing. You can say to the people in your life, oh, I can't have that piece of cake. I'm on a program. And everybody gets it. Or you can say, oh, pizza is not allowed on my diet right now. And people back off. Or you can say, oh, I'd love to have seconds, but I just can't. It's over my calorie tracking allowance. Again, people understand that. They accept it. Nobody gets upset. Nobody gets their feelings hurt. Everybody moves on. And there is another layer to this too. The discomfort that you feel in those moments when you say no, that discomfort has an end date. You know how it is with the diets or the short-term programs. It's just a specific time period. It's only 2 weeks. It's only a month. It's only 12 weeks. You can see the finish line. And so that means that the social awkwardness, the saying no, the navigating of those tricky moments, it all feels more bearable because you know it's temporary. But here's the problem. You haven't actually built the skill of saying no. With those short-term programs and quick fixes, all you've done is you've borrowed a reason to say no that is temporary. What does that mean? That means that when the program ends, the reason disappears. And suddenly, you're right back in those same social situations with no script, no protection, and no practice. The guardrails come down, and almost inevitably, the weight comes back. Does any of this sound familiar? Because it might. I lived the cycle for years. Most of the women I work with have too. On the flip side, instead, when you commit to a genuine, sustainable, permanent lifestyle change, There is no neat little bow to tie around it. There's no cute little package. It's difficult to say to the host at a Thanksgiving dinner, oh, I am actually in the middle of permanently transforming my health and the way I live so that I can have the energy, vitality, and confidence to truly live my best years ahead. So, no thank you to the extra serving of potatoes. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it? And that's the thing. So, the first few times you navigate those situations without the safety net of a diet or short term program to hide behind, it can feel really exposing, really uncomfortable, and almost like you're doing something wrong. I remember the first time I said no to seconds offered by somebody I cared about without being on any particular program or diet. The look on the host's face, the slight pause in the room, the follow up question of, oh, are you sure? Is everything all right? Did you not enjoy it? And just having to sit in that discomfort and say, nope, it was absolutely delicious. I am just full. Thank you so much. No explanation, no diet or program to point to, just me making a choice for myself. Saying that was huge in the moment is an understatement. Looking back, it felt huge, and now that I'm several years on in my health journey, I know it was big. It was a big deal because it was one of the first times I truly owned my choices without needing the external permission to make them, without having a borrowed reason or a diet or program that everybody around me could easily understand and accept. Now, I want to spend a moment here because if you have felt that awkwardness in saying no or trying to say no, then I want you to know that the awkwardness is normal and real and you're not alone. It's really important to acknowledge just how many different forms this challenge takes in everyday life because it's not just the big family occasions, it shows up everywhere. It's the office birthday cake that gets passed around and everybody's taking a slice. It's the colleague who brought in the homemade cookies and is visibly pleased every time someone takes one. It's the friend who suggests getting dessert when you're out at a restaurant and then says, oh, come on, when you decline. It's the waiter at the restaurant who describes the chocolate fondant dessert with such enthusiasm that saying no almost feels rude. And it's even the upsell at the coffee shop. Oh, would you like a muffin with that? Or what about a bear claw with your coffee? Or, oh, did you want to make that an extra large mocha? It's the loving family member who cooked a big meal, has seconds themselves, and you can just feel the unspoken question hanging in the air. It's the well-meaning relative in Thanksgiving who keeps circling back and saying to you, oh, go on, just a little more. It's a holiday. You've been there and I've been there too. And then there are the guilt trips. I know you've heard them. They're classics for a reason. Something along the lines of, oh, but it's going to go to waste. Or, didn't you like it? Implying, of course, that if you truly enjoyed the food, you would obviously have more. Or maybe, oh, go on, just this once, a little bit won't hurt you. And those replies, when you try to say no to food in those moments, are the ones that can really get under your skin because it's emotional and they're wrapped in a kind of emotional logic that is hard to argue with in the moment. If any of this resonates with you, I want you to hear this clearly and without any judgment whatsoever. If you find those moments awkward and uncomfortable and you have difficulty saying no, I want you to know that is completely normal. It does not mean you're weak. It does not mean you're broken or that you lack discipline. It does not mean that you are never going to achieve your health goals. Instead, all it means is that you are a normal person who cares about other people's feelings. And honestly, that's a beautiful quality. The problem only arises when that caring for other people consistently overrides your commitment to your own health and wellness goals. When you are the one who always ends up last on the list. And if you spend decades putting yourself last, which so many of us women have, then this is the shift that changes everything. Now, I want us to take an extra minute and be honest with each other about something. We live in a food environment that is working against us at every single turn. What do I mean by that? Well, we're surrounded by food all the time, everywhere. You know it, and I know it too. You know what I'm talking about. The office snack bowl, the birthday treats in the break room, the bread basket that arrives before you even have looked at the menu in the restaurant, the chocolate candy bars at the grocery store checkout, the homemade goodies at the school gates, the snacks at every meeting, every event, every gathering. And that is just what makes all this more challenging. The food is just there, constantly. And it's almost always being offered by a person, which means that every single one of those moments carries that same social weight and emotional challenge that we've been talking about. And here's the thing I want to be very clear on. I am not saying you should always say no. That is not the point at all. Part of building a truly sustainable, healthy lifestyle is learning how to enjoy food, how to be present to celebrations, how to share meals with the people you love without it being loaded with guilt or stress. I love food. I still enjoy meals out, celebrations, the occasional treat. The goal was never to white knuckle my way through every social situation for the rest of my life. That is not living a full and rich life. However, what I am saying is that the ability to say no when you want to say no is critical. Saying no when you've made a conscious choice that this particular thing that is being offered is not serving you, and saying no without crumbling under social pressure, without feeling like a terrible person, without letting the guilt eat at you afterwards, that is a skill. And it is a skill that most of us were never taught, but it's a skill that you absolutely can practice and learn. Now, before I share my 5 top tips to help you say no in those awkward moments, I really just want to underline one point, because that one point gets to the heart of the matter. And I want to unpack it a bit further, because it's something that comes up in these moments. It can be a challenge for so many of us. It's that family, loved one guilt trip. You know it, and I know it too. It's the guilt trip when you try to say no. Maybe you even do say no, and it's that response. Often that guilt trip goes something like this. Oh, but if you don't finish it, it'll go to waste. Or, did you know how much the steak cost? Or, do you have any idea how long this meal took to make? Or, oh, are you saying you don't like my cooking? Or, you should be grateful to have this food to eat when so many others don't. I know that's a big trigger for many of us. Or, come on, live a little. Or, just this once won't hurt you. Now here's the thing. I'm confident you've heard some variation of these guilt trips over the years. And I know I have too. So please hear me when I say this with love. That is not your problem to solve. Other people's responses to your saying no is not your problem. Because the reality is that the biggest waste of that extra food that you're being offered would be for it to end up in your body working against the goals that you have been working on so hard. And the people offering the food, whether they're family or friends or colleagues or strangers, however well-meaning they are, they don't know the journey you're on. They don't know the early mornings, the hard choices, the progress you've made, the version of yourself you are working so hard to become. And importantly, it is not your job to manage their emotions and expectations at the expense of your own health. I want to tell you a story. I remember standing in an office kitchen years ago, and one of my colleagues at the time, she'd brought in these incredibly elaborate homemade pastries. I mean, they looked incredible. There were, these sort of donut type things, and they were covered with sugar drizzle. Yeah, you get the picture. And they were doing the rounds in the office, and she was making sure everybody had one because they were homemade and they were really special. And at the time, I was really focused on my health, and I said to her, "Oh, they look incredible, but I'm all set. No, thank you." And her response was really hurt, and you could see it in her face. And she said, "Oh, but I made them especially for everybody in the office. Please have one. It's a family recipe." And in that moment, I felt the familiar pull of the guilt and the obligation, and frankly, the desire to just give in and stuff one in my mouth just to keep the peace. But then I thought about what I'd done that morning before I came into the office. I'd gotten up early to go get a workout done. I also thought about all the progress I'd made on my health. And I thought about the woman I was becoming and the woman I was working so hard to become. And I just thought, all these people, however lovely they are, however well-meaning they are, they have no idea what my journey looks like. And that is okay. I don't need to share my inner thoughts with everybody. But, and this is the important point, it is absolutely not my obligation to show my appreciation for their effort by doing something that does not serve me. And I'd go even further and say by doing something that does not serve me and by doing something that actively sabotages me. Because here's the thing, I'm a grown adult. I'm allowed to have preferences. So in that moment, I smiled and I said to her, they look truly amazing. I have no doubt they are, but I'm okay. No, thank you. And yes, it felt awkward. And yes, I'm sure she was a bit taken aback and a bit hurt, but just for a moment. And then life moved on, and I moved on, and the world did not end. And I want you to know that you are allowed to do the same. Do you know the irony of that story is that years before that, I was actually the person in the exact same office with the exact same colleagues, bringing my homemade cake to share with my colleagues. And I was the one offering a piece of cake to everybody. And I'm quite confident that I too would have been a bit hurt if somebody had declined my offer of a piece of cake. But that's okay. Life moves on. I moved on. And you're allowed to move on too. Now, I promised you that I would give you 5 tips to help build that skill of saying no. 5 tips that can really help you feel less awkward in those moments. So, here we go. Tip number 1, acknowledge the awkwardness instead of fighting it. The first thing I want you to do is to stop expecting this to feel comfortable straight away. One of the reasons people give up on saying no is that they try it once, it feels super awkward, the person that's offering the food is offended, and then that's that. And they decide that they're never going to say no again because it's not worth it to not keep the peace. But then here's the thing, nothing really changes. And those people keep on sabotaging their own weight loss goals. So I want you to know that the awkwardness that you feel when you first start saying no, especially if it's after years and decades of saying yes, just like I have, that awkwardness is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. Instead, it's just a sign that saying you are doing something new, you're doing something that goes against years of conditioning, something that may be a pattern interrupt with that specific person who's offering the food. And that's okay. That's normal. That's to be expected. So give yourself permission to feel a little uncomfortable. Sit with it. But it passes, I promise. And every time it passes, that uncomfortableness gets a little quieter and the next time it feels less awkward. Tip number 2 is to create your mental anchor that is personal to you. What do I mean by that? Well, when the social pressure kicks in and you feel yourself wobbling and you feel yourself almost saying yes, not because you want to say yes, but just because it's all too awkward and horrible, have something in your mind to come back to. Think about the one thing that you find hardest in your health journey. Everybody's different, so make that one thing really personal to you. So let me ask you, what specific thing do you find most difficult to do or not to do in your health journey? Really connect to it. So for example, is it the early morning workout when the bed is really nice and warm? Is it the walk that you drag yourself on at the end of the day when you're exhausted? Is it cutting back on sugar in your coffee and tea when you've always had sugar in the past? Is it going to bed earlier when you'd love to stay a bit longer and finish that last episode of the TV? What is it for you? Be very specific here. Whatever that one hardest thing is for you, hold that image in your mind. That is your mental anchor. And in that moment, when someone is pushing the muffin or the second slice or the dessert menu, and you feel yourself caving just to keep the peace and to not feel awkward and not to offend anybody, come back to the image of the mental anchor of the one thing and remind yourself, you do that one hard thing. You're doing lots of hard things. Are you really going to undermine all of that just to avoid a slightly awkward 30 seconds? You're a grown adult making conscious, deliberate choices for your health and your future. And please hear me when I say that you do not need to justify that to anyone. You do not need to explain yourself. You can just say no. And having that mental anchor of the one hard thing in that moment can really help you say no more confidently. Let's move on to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is have a few go-to phrases in your back pocket that you feel comfortable with and that are ready to use. Because the thing is that one of the reasons that many of us cave in those moments is that we get caught off guard and we just simply don't know what to say or how to phrase it. And we almost get a bit tongue-tied and shy. So instead of saying no, like we want to, we end up saying yes because it's easier, it's safer, and it might also be what we've always done in the past. So the fix here is simple. Have a small bank of warm, friendly, non-defensive phrases that feel natural to you and practice them until they come automatically. Things like, oh, it looks incredible. I'm just so full. Thank you so much. Or, not for me right now, but thank you. Or, I'm all good, thanks. Everything was delicious. Or, thank you for all your time and effort. It looks fabulous, but I'm okay for now. Whatever phrases work for you, you decide. Keep them short, warm, and genuine. But here's the key. No over-explaining, no apologizing, no lengthy justification. You don't owe anyone a reason. You don't owe them to reveal your goals or share your efforts. Instead, a warm smile and a simple no thank you is a complete sentence. And here's the other thing. Practice it in the mirror if you need to. Trust me, it sounds silly, but it works. Let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 to saying no is practice on strangers first. Or maybe acquaintances, but basically people that you don't know that well. Because if saying no to the people closest to you still feels overwhelming, I get it. So my suggestion is start smaller. The coffee shop can be your training ground here. When the barista at the coffee shop asks you if you want a larger size of coffee, or they ask if you want to add a muffin or a bear claw with that, practice saying your no. warmly, confidently, without over explaining. No, thank you. I'm good. Not today. I'm all set. Find a version that feels natural to you and start using it. Yes, it might feel a little awkward at first, and the barista might offer the thing again because that is literally their job. But trust me, every time you do this, it gets a little easier. I promise. Every time you practice saying no with a real person in a real situation, you're rewiring your default response. A default response that's been with you for years, maybe even decades. So it might take a bit of time, but you'll get there. And the confidence that you build with strangers and acquaintances and maybe people that you'll never see again, that confidence carries over into the bigger moments with the people that you love. So, tip 4 is start small. Choose small stake situations. Do the reps, build the muscle, and get confident saying no, and then upgrade to the social situations with the people that you love. Trust me, it works. Let's move on to tip number 5. My last tip is a good one. Tip number 5 takes the idea of practice and practicing saying no even further, and it makes it so much more powerful. Tip number 5 is to try a guided meditation or visualization as practice for saying no. This tip might surprise you, but hear me out. The reason saying no feels so hard in those situations, it's not logical. It's emotional. Because here's the thing, you already know intellectually that you don't want or need the extra slice of cake or whatever the food is. That's not the problem. The problem is that heavy feeling in the room. The social pressure, the fear of causing awkwardness or hurt feelings, the guilt that sits in your chest, even though when you know you've made the right choice. So, meditation and visualization allows you to practice those emotional situations in a safe space, to feel the discomfort, to rehearse your response, and to build genuine confidence before you're in the real moment. I feel so strongly about this that I've created 2 separate meditations, just under 10 minutes each, specifically to address this point. So you can rehearse saying no until it feels less awkward and more natural. There is the saying no meditation, and also there is the practice for a big social event meditation as well. Both meditations are perfect to try out and really practice saying no. The women that've tried the meditations, they've told me that they've been really transformative for them in terms of feeling prepared and feeling less awkward in those moments and just feeling more confident and at ease with saying no. I'll link the meditation in the show notes. They're part of my full mindset transformation collection, and I think you'll absolutely love them. So, those are my 5 top tips that can help you to build the skill of saying no. I trust this resonated with you, and hopefully you found the tips helpful. And before you go, I just want to share some final thoughts on this topic, just so that you know you're not alone. Saying no to people is hard. It's emotional. It can be awkward and uncomfortable and even feel unkind when it's absolutely anything but. And if you've struggled with this, you're not alone. You're not weak. You're not broken. I've been there too. What you are is human, and you are somebody who cares deeply about the people around you, and that's a wonderful thing. But I also want you to know something that I wish somebody had told me years ago. That every time you say yes when you mean no, you are not just making a food choice. You are sending yourself a message. And that message says that other people's comfort matters more than your health. And that your health goals can wait, that you'll deal with it later. And those messages, they stack up and they become the story that you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And that story starts holding you back from achieving your health goals and from living the life you truly want. Instead, on the flip side, every single time you say no, when you mean and you want to say no, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's awkward, even when it doesn't land perfectly, you are sending yourself a different message. A message that says, I matter. My health matters. My future matters. And I am someone who shows up for herself even when it's hard or awkward or different or new or uncomfortable. And that is the real transformation. Not the number on the scale, not the dress size, but becoming the woman who knows her own worth and acts accordingly. And believe me when I tell you that this woman, this incredible, courageous, loving, amazing, ambitious woman is already inside you. She just needs a little practice saying no. You've got this, and I am cheering you on every single step of the way. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. If you want more real, honest guidance on losing weight and transforming your health sustainably in midlife, you're in the right place. Subscribe here and get my strategies, mindset shifts, and the tools that actually work for women 40 and above. No BS, no quick fixes, just real transformation. And make sure to get my free guided meditation to completely transform your motivation, making your weight loss and health journey feel so much easier. Link in the show notes below. And will you do me a favor, please? I'm on a mission to reach as many women as I can and to truly help them transform their health on their own terms. Could you take a few seconds and share this episode with somebody in your life who you know could use some advice on how to say no to people and food and to move forward with their health journey? I would be so grateful. Don't forget, you deserve to feel good in your body and life. I believe in you and I'm cheering you on. Have an amazing day. For the obligatory legal disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, nutritionist, therapist, medical professional, or similar. All information shared on this podcast is purely for informational purposes and does not constitute medical advice. It is entirely your personal choice and responsibility as to what information you use. Please consult your own medical professional for any medical advice.